You've made it to Chiro Hustle Live. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession. This week's episode is brought to you by Imaging Services, Mahalo Wellness, Chiro Health USA, The Goodman Factor, Chiro Moguls, Local Gold, Chiro Thin, McCaffrey's Clinical Mentoring, and Chiropractic Rocks. Let's hustle. I have a special guest here tonight with me, coming in from California. I know things are hot and heavy out there for you guys out there on the front lines. And just before we get into this Facebook Live interview, talking to you about the state of freedoms and opening up America, I really want to talk to you about chiropractic and the immune system. And we're going to talk on a few topics. One of the topics I'm really excited about is I know you served our country before, and you've been on the front lines and with your voice now. And a couple weekends ago, you did a rally in Sacramento. I know you guys are going to be doing another one here next Saturday, the 23rd at high noon. And the goal is to get 1 million people out there supporting this movement. And really, I just wanted to let everybody out there know that Cordie Williams is a Marine. This guy is a chiropractor. And you're using your time and your voice to support not only the freedom for our nation, but freedom for chiropractic. So let's just lead right in, man, and talk about first topic, chiropractic and the immune system.
Love it. Love it. Well, first of all, Jim, thanks for having me on the show. It's an honor. You've got a great following and always really enjoy everybody you have on. And I was watching earlier today when Jason Dean was on and Stan. So I don't know how I'm going to follow that up, but I'm definitely going to try. At any rate, when we talk about the immune system, I think it's important, and all the docs out there will definitely relate to this and understand this. I mean, I think a lot of times when we explain it to the layman or patients, what I always tell my girls and my CAs when I'm training them is, when you talk subluxation and you talk immune system, you don't have to get real fancy. Just like be basic about it, right? You've got a breaker box up here. You've got the midbrain, you've got the pons, or you could just simply say the brainstem. And that brainstem is your power box. And that power box has in it the function and ability to control how you digest food. It controls your adrenals. It controls your heart, your lungs, every single part and active function of your body. And your brain, as we know as chiropractors, and as you know, because I might as well just make you an honorary chiropractor. I mean, you basically are, dude. I mean, come on now, right? Everybody knows who you are. The brain's supposed to communicate with the spinal cord. And then we know innately that innate system is supposed to drive those signals to the organs. So when that communication system is there, right, instead of wearing what I call a facial condom, maybe we should just allow that system to work, stimulate the interleukins, the interferons, the tumor necrosis factor, the white blood cells, that part of the immune system that actively is there to say, ooh, there's something weird in there. I don't really recognize that, right? And so I better start attacking it or fighting it, right? Whether it be, the natural ability to ward off, allergies or asthma, that histamine inflammation response that the body has. And so there's so many different functions that control immunity, but I always start right here. And then after I go here, I always look at, well, what about the nerves going to the gut? What about the gut lining? What about the microbiome? What about the flora in the stomach? And so we've got the first brain, and this is the most important one, because I'm a guy that believes brain function first. And then after those nerve endings can get through to the stomach, the adrenals, the liver, and all the associated organs, between like T12 and S1. Now let's independently feed the organ, right? Like what are we eating? Are we eating McDonald's every day, right? Are we smoking 5 cigars a day? And I'm an occasional cigar guy, but what are we doing to upregulate our adrenals, or what are we doing to downregulate them? And then what are we doing for the rest of the function of those organs? Like, what are we feeding the organs?
Well, what you're talking about right now is based off of an Edison quote that said the doctor of the future will prescribe no medicine, but will get his patients interested in the human frame. And that's basically what you're saying is it's an Edison quote. And I really believe that if we can tie that together with the Edison quote, going to the doctor of the future is what he was talking about. He didn't even know that the doctor of the future was chiropractic, but the doctor of the present now is chiropractic. And it's time for chiropractors to stand up and to philosophically speak their truth, and to not be afraid of some regulatory agencies that say, oh, you can't say that chiropractic has a direct influence on the immune system. Where's the research?
Yeah.
Well, how about we say that people become healthy because they're getting adjusted frequently, and we know that symptomatology progress is better when people are well adjusted, like the shirt says.
Right. And there is so much research. I mean, the ICA put out some research around the immune system, and there were a couple other groups did. Dan Sullivan did as well. I mean, there's decades of research that shows that chiropractic supports the immune system. So just because the American, what do we want to call it? The American, I can't think of something insulting, so I'm not going to say it, right? Because I got to have something insulting on this one, but I can't think of it. The ACA, right? We know that they think it's this mechanistic, okay, we're just going to headaches and migraines and neck pain and all that. And it's so funny when you put an intention out there, what God gives you back, right? Like I always love the scripture, death and life are in the power of the tongue. Choose life. And so it is when I put my hands on somebody, is my intention that, okay, this is going to be this manual adjustment. And, for those of us, I'm a firm believer in taking films. I just don't know, like, it's just my opinion. I'm not trying to insult anybody. That's just what I align with. How can you neurologically get a change in a system if you don't know what you're adjusting, if you don't know what your primary subluxation is? I just kind of think you can't, you know what I mean? So the ACA is very mechanistic, and they go in with the intent of, oh, this is all mechanical. It's all about muscles and scar tissue and soft tissue and ligaments. And we just kind of think, and I say we, meaning the principal chiropractor just believes that his innate state, when he puts his hands on somebody to deliver that adjustment, and what place their innate is in. Because if they were just blasting, listening to Frodo off of CNN right before they walk into the office, right, they're going to be primed with negativity, and they're not ready to receive that adjustment. Or if they're in the Bay, because my girls constantly tell people to do this, and they're on their phone. I mean, come on, man, you came in for an adjustment. You can't stay off your phone. So I have signs, man. We're like, no phones in here. They said no phone zone.
Well, yeah, I appreciate what you're saying, because a lot of people that will be listening to our show, they're not going to know what chiropractic philosophy is, man. And if somebody was like, you said an acronym of ACA, if you guys didn't know, that stands for Anti-Chiropractic Association.
There you go. See, if I couldn't drop the mic on it, I knew Jim would. There we go, baby. I love it.
And, I didn't say that to be a smart aleck, but I say that because there's been a lot of pressure to take x-ray out of chiropractic by that group. And there's been a lot of pressure to say that chiropractors are only good for musculoskeletal concerns and headaches and car crashes and things like that. And even though that chiropractic does a really great job of helping people in crisis situations or entrenched, symptomatic situations, chiropractic is a life-giving profession. And
100%, man.
And the premise around it is to give, love, serve. And that's the philosophical resonance that I started to learn about. And one of the things I learned about also was we have to tell the story. And that's why we started Chiro Hustle, the show, to tell chiropractors' story, so we could make content-rich, consistent programming that supported free speech and chiropractic. And that is subluxation-based conversations. And that is to basically say, hey, I support chiropractors that support health and vitality. And if you are a part of that group, I want to talk to you, and I want your message to be heard. And I want chiropractors that have a voice, that stand for something, to be able to share what it means to take care of not only their patient base, but to be, as we were talking about earlier, a leader. And there's not stage time for everybody. But if you don't believe in it and you don't stand up for what you believe in, you might just go out of business.
Yeah. Especially now in this climate, and not to segue too quickly to the other topics we want to cover, but I just don't know how you can say that it's such a limiting thing to say that chiropractic is for headaches and back pain. It's kind of like when a patient comes in, they're like, "Doc, can you crack me right here?" And I'm like, well, first of all, I don't know how to crack anything. You crack eggs. Okay. That's carbon dioxide that builds up in the joint. And what we do is we take pictures, and then I do multiple leg checks to see where you need to be adjusted. So my x-ray is going to dictate where I adjust. And then the leg check is going to dictate where I adjust. And maybe you need to be adjusted there, but oftentimes you probably don't. Where it hurts is not where the cause is, 9 times out of 10. And so it's always fascinating to me that people say that, in that ACA kind of Medipractor type of tribe or group, well, chiropractic, it's not good for this, and the research doesn't show that. Well, my 6 years in practice, 7 years in practice, and before that I was working on NFL athletes before I was ever a chiropractor, shows me that within probably the first 2 weeks, sometimes the first couple of days after somebody's been adjusted, what do we hear? Doc, I feel lighter. I have more energy. I'm sleeping better. My digestion's better. Lady literally started care yesterday, came in this morning, right? I do a short little window sometimes on Saturdays. And, I did a small little adjustment hour, the hour of power this morning. And, I'm adjusting some folks. And like literally, I have this lady stand up and I have her kind of walk around. One of my good friends, Vince Bertolini, I did this in the NFL, but I stopped doing this as a doc. Adjusted her, had her walk around, and immediately, what is she talking about? She's saying, hey, I feel lighter. I feel like my head's more upright. I don't know why, doc, but coming in today, I feel like I have a better outlook on life.
Bingo. And it clears up vision.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Right. And not just this vision, although we've all heard that. And, I used to have a lady, I'll never forget the day. Lady has hearing aids. She said she's 80% loss in one ear. And then she's lying face down after, 4 months, 5 months. And we all get these miracle stories all the time. Right. And all of a sudden she starts like crying. And I'm going to the bay. I'm like, what's going on? She's like, I just heard 80% of your conversation. And she's in tears because we used to play charades, right? It was a big joke. It was like an 80, 85-year-old woman. And she had like, I don't know, 70 to 90% hearing loss in one ear. I'd have to talk in the other ear. And here I was like 3 days away. And she was never able to hear me prior to that one day. And then all of a sudden she's crying and saying, Doc, I'm literally hearing everything you're saying out of both ears. And she's in tears about it. So like, what's your intention? What are you doing to specifically find out where that primary subluxation is? And where's your state when you put your hands on somebody? And people talk about that all the time, but it's so important because I think that's the difference between the guys that get miracles and the guys that don't. So I can't imagine a profession without x-rays, right? Like I can't imagine a profession that says we don't need x-rays. And I kind of think that guy, Dr. Deed Harrison, right? If you have 271 researched, peer-reviewed research articles in JAMA, right? You're kind of a smart guy, I'm just saying, right? You might be onto something, right? You might be onto something. So I'm going to listen to that guy and not all the other Medipractors that are barely surviving, right? So
yeah. And for you guys out there that might not know a little bit about my backstory, but I got into chiropractic as a traction tech. And I studied CBP stuff that you're talking about with Deed Harrison.
Yeah.
So my first 6 years, I wasn't just a talking head. I worked in a clinic. I worked in a clinic, and I worked with patient care for 6 years, man. So
wow, so cool.
I was doing curve correction therapy with people for the first 6 years of my career. That's 11 years old now, working in chiropractic. And I realized that we had so many miracle stories that you're talking about that I wanted to make a film on chiropractic, because I was like, how do everybody that comes in here, how do they know how great this profession is? But when I talk to people about what I do for a living, they're so confused. I call it the cousins, brothers, neighbors clause. That like somebody has a story that they're going to tell you that they heard once about somebody that did this, that went to a chiropractor, and this was the outcome. And I said, well, how can I build credibility for a profession that I really believe in and I love? And I was at a crossroads of life, man. I was like, well, what do I do with my life? What do I like give myself a career of? And I was like, well, only thing I really believe in 100% when it comes to like the future is chiropractic. So that's when I started working in the office. I decided to develop the first documentary that we did. And that's when things started rolling. And I'm like, well, what can I do to add more value? I'm like, well, I'm going to start a podcast. I'm going to get the most syndication, the most listens, and the most momentum behind our mission to share the truth of chiropractic. And, that's how we met. I was like, hey, I'm doing 20 interviews over a 2-day span, and I want docs to sign up for them. And then we met at Billy DeMoss and Mary Jane Mirasol's California Jam. And I know that they're going to be at the rally with you on May 23rd in Sacramento. But you agreed to that. I met you, and then I see you just hockey stick with like what you did out there in Sacramento and how you called the SWAT team down, and you're like, hey guys, I'm a Marine. I think if you guys do this, how are you going to go to sleep at night? And what are you going to tell your kids? That I arrested innocent people that were fighting for their freedom and fighting for their rights. And I think that that's the story that needs to be heard. And that's like the shot heard around the world, dude. And that's why you've had over, almost 8 million views on that video, is because it is the shot heard around the world. And it is something that people need to pay attention to. And it is something very serious. And if we don't fight for something right now, then eventually we're, like you said, the sideliners, those are the people that are going to tell their kids, like, yeah, I just watched freedom get taken away from us, and I didn't stand up for, humanity. And I didn't really believe that it's okay to like freedom of assembly that says that in our Constitution. And I think, those are things that they need a real patriot like yourself that, has an oath to protect the country and has a hand in the communication paradigm with credibility to say to people that are in law enforcement, say, hey man, I know that what you think you're doing right now is by an order, but what are you going to tell your wife and kids? That it was your order to slam some innocent people down to the ground and arrest them for what?
You've made it to Chiro Hustle Live. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession.
This week's episode is brought to you by Imaging Services, Mahalo Wellness, Chiro Health USA, The Goodman Factor, Chiro Moguls, Local Gold, Chiro Thin, McCaffrey's Clinical Mentoring, and Chiropractic Rocks. Let's hustle.
No, and man, I agree with obviously everything you said. It's so fascinating, right? How, and I've said this, and Billy was saying it on your show, and I totally get Billy's anger, because I'm right there with him. He's a dear friend and a mentor, like he is to so many, and I don't understand how there's so many people in and outside of the profession right now that don't think this is their fight, that don't want to mobilize and are comfortable just putting on the facial condom, being a sheep and being in line like a mummy, wearing the plastic gloves. And so many people just want to be complacent. And I'm just not going to do it. I mean, I'm getting on a plane on Thursday, and I've been told that they're going to force me to wear a mask. I'm going to go like this. I'm not wearing a mask, not doing it. You can slam me to the ground. You can put a gun to my head. You can pull the trigger. I'm not wearing a mask. I'm just not doing it. I'm not putting on gloves. Okay. Because I took an oath, and I took an oath in June 22nd, 1998, when I joined the United States Marine Corps, that said, I will defend all enemies, foreign and domestic. And I'm not going to sit by after I had 2 grandparents that served in multiple wars, risked their life. One of them was in the invasion of Okinawa in World War II and brought back a rifle that is booby trapped, like it could have blown up at any time, right? He kept the rifle. My grandfather, it's ridiculous, right? My grandmother used to be, it was like in this like certain part of the house where we couldn't touch it, but my brother and I would like sneak in anyways and like look at it. We'd mess with it. Had a bayonet, a sharp bayonet, which is a knife on the end of a rifle for those of us that don't know what that is, right? And we would go in and touch it and kind of mess with it. And here it is, it's booby trapped. But I'm not going to sit by and let freedom just go on by. And their sacrifices were in vain. Operation Red Wings, Lieutenant Michael Murphy, Gunnery Sergeant Dave Smith, one of my patients, all these people that did tours, blood, sweat, and tears, the thousands and millions of people at Arlington. And then a chiropractor is going to be a tough guy behind a computer. He's going to make money and revenue off the profession for years upon years, do coaching groups, videos, whatever the case might be, right? And he'll be a tough guy and talk about all the chiropractors that were in jail. But then right now he's sitting on his ass. And he's the guy that can't come up to Sacramento on the 23rd. Because, oh, well, I got something going on. What do you got going on? You're sitting at home watching Billions, which that's a great show. Don't get me wrong, right? But you're sitting at home and you're watching Netflix, or, oh, it's my daughter's birthday. Cool. Come and have it with a bunch of docs in Sacramento. I'll buy your daughter a burger and a shake or whatever, right? Like, I mean, seriously. I mean, what can you say to bring your kid to a family-friendly environment about freedom and show them morals, ethics, and character, and that you're standing up for freedom? Because that's what this is all about. And hopefully you guys can see it. 1776 Forever Free. Chris Lippy and I started this, okay? And Chris Lippy's not even a chiropractor. And he knows more about the profession than 99% of all chiropractors out there, more about the green books. And he's the guy that he doesn't need to do this. Like, Chris does great. He does really well, really successful guy. But he's saying, you know what? I'm going to be a stand for freedom, because I want my grandkids to grow up in a world that I grew up in. And that's the same thing for me. I got my boys behind here, right? One was in the oven back then. Hopefully you guys can see right there, right? Nice tummy. And I'm like, there's no way that I'm going to sit idly by and have my son, little Cordie, say, hey, Dad, there was this big fight and we were headed towards socialism. And, did you do anything about that? Like, where were you in that? Right. Yeah. I heard some docs went to jail at one point, and, then there was this fight for freedom and you didn't do a damn thing. And so I totally get Billy's frustration, because I'm right there with him. There's so many guys that they're worried about their practice and their license, but you can take a big shit on your practice and your license if this goes the other way, because there's a bus, and that bus has empty seats on it, and it's headed towards socialism. So this is what I was saying at a rally today. Are you going to buy a ticket, and are you going to say, you know what? I'm going to turn that son of a bitch around, and I'm going to be one of the guys to turn it around and send it back towards freedom. Because, I mean, that's what we're up against, And
what you're saying, and I'm just going to summarize it quickly because that's a great part of my job, is you're saying, not on my watch.
Yeah, 100% I'm saying that.
Not on my watch. Not on my future conversations with my family. Not for the liberty that I live with. Not for the oath that I took. Not for the freedoms of my community and this country at large. And I think that when you're talking about jumping on an airplane and going to a rally and feeling like somebody's going to mandate somebody that's kept these borders free.
Bro, I've been to Sacramento 3 times in a month. I've taken 3 plane flights in the last 4 weeks away from my boys and my family. 3 times in a month. And people are bitching about doing it one time. For the largest, there's going to be 50,000. Well, excuse me, Bill. There's going to be 1 million people at this rally. Okay. Hotels are already booked up. We have the SAC PD told us that they're booking up really fast. All right. We've got Cafe Anderson. Okay. Cafe Anderson, country music singer, is going to be playing.
I know the guy.
Yeah. Amazing dude. Like, guy drives like a Ferrari or something. And he's like meat and potatoes, dude. Like, amazing dude.
Yeah. I met him before.
Oh, you have? Okay. Yeah, dude. Then man, he's a sweetheart. He's a sweetheart, dude. And Buzz Patterson carried the nuclear football for President Clinton. Okay. Lived in the White House, like New York Times best-selling author, like freaking 4 times in a row or something. And this guy's running for District 7 in California. So, I mean, we got it packed out, and we still got more things coming in. We're reaching out to Kid Rock. We're reaching out to a bunch of people. Those are the 2 that are confirmed, with a bunch of other speakers. We got docs flying in. I mean, Billy's been making calls right and left, but I just wonder on the calls, I know the guys that Billy's calling, and they're like, I'm there, Billy, I got you. But then I also know the guys that he's having to like wrangle and pull and tug to get there and leverage them. Like, why is that necessary? I just don't get it.
Well, I know we're coming up on the edge of our live on freedom tonight, but I wanted to touch on one topic I think that we need to discuss on because your undergrad is in economics. And what is it
Oh,
doing?
this is going to be scary now if you ask me about like if we go really finance on this. No, I'm joking, Jim.
No, but what is it doing to our economy with this scare of people not going to work? And what is it doing to businesses and mom and pop shops? And like the moral fiber of our nation is workers.
Yeah.
And what do you see happening in your community?
Yeah, so I got some figures. Well, first of all, if we go like macro to micro, first of all, 60, I think heard 40 million Americans overall are unemployed in America. And it could be even higher. That's a stat as of like a week and a half ago. So I would say it's probably up to 50 million. Okay. So 50 million Americans are out of work. In this area, 33% of one locality called Oceanside, this is what a guy that spoke at this rally, because we had a former mayor speak at this rally today. We had a district, whatever, of Oceanside guy named Chris. He's a former Marine, amazing dude. And then I spoke, and then Graham Ledger spoke after me. And what he was saying is just in Oceanside, 30 to 33% of their businesses or of 33% of people are unemployed. And he said 40% of businesses, because they hit their taking, won't make it. 40% of businesses. And of our country, if you go macro on that for a second, 60% of our country's revenue is from small businesses. 60%. And that's a stat. I don't know where that stat came from other than the mouth of President Trump and Mnuchin. This was like 3 weeks ago. And so you think about that, and you think about like the lady next door that lost 75% of her revenue. We were walking around downtown San Diego today after the rally, and we were going to get something to eat. And Jim, like there's literally, it's like a ghost town, bro. I mean, in Carlsbad where I am, there's people on the streets. There's like like some crackheads, people shooting up, bunch of homeless people, right? And then you literally see trailers at some of the bars. And it's not like they're renovating, like they're taking equipment out of these businesses. And so I'm always one of those people. I just kind of believe, in the Marine Corps, we said every Marine is a rifleman. And what that means is every Marine is prepared for any situation. If you're the guy that types up letters, or, if you're the dude in the mailroom, or, if you polish the colonel's, shoes and iron his underwear, whatever it is, right? Every Marine is ready to go and is ready to lock and load at any time. And that's what I thought about us as a profession and as chiropractors. I thought we were those Marines, and that every chiro was always ready with that M16. I thought we were like those riflemen that were always prepared. Because for years we've been talking about, we always talk about the past, and we talk about how, hey, some people went to jail, and I'll go to jail. And these people espouse from stage that they're willing to do it, and they know the green books. And now here we are. And like my friend, Dr. Ron Sinagra always says, everybody's a tough guy behind a computer. And so we got all these tough guys, but where are the tough guys right now? Where are the people that aren't answering the call or saying that they're worried about the practice? You know what I say? If people are coming in, if people aren't going to come in because you get involved in a rally or a protest, you either didn't educate them correctly. That's the first thing. Or two, the second thing would be, those aren't the right people for your practice. That's my opinion. Okay. And we see about 350 people a week. All right. And maybe out of that, maybe we've had 15 people that are COVID, like hunkered down, like, it's World War III. All right. Right. They think that's, oh my God, I need to drink my own CO2 and the condom is going to protect me. There's nothing that can get in the facial condom, even though all the research says it's bullshit. It's fascinating, right? It's totally fascinating.
Yeah. And I really think that these conversations are very timely. And I really believe that having somebody with your accolades and a doctor and a Marine being able to speak on these topics, it's going to empower people to know that they're not alone, and that they have somebody that is articulate enough to represent us as not only a chiropractic profession, but as a free nation. And I really find so much honor in getting to know you, and having you share this message with our community and our following. But I also know that you represent a larger following, and I know that you're getting so many opportunities to get onto media and to share the chiropractic truth, but also share the truth of United States of America and being a free nation. And I commend you for making time tonight to jump on with me. And I thank you so much for sharing your truth and your experience for this momentum that you're building for the weekend of May 23rd out there in Sacramento at high noon. And I commend all the chiropractors that are stepping up and going out there and doing this rally and supporting our freedom and helping us from this next Great Depression. And,
Amen,
there's so many things that are happening right now that are unprecedented rates, not only the unemployment with the economic downturn, but, the child abuse and the suicides and the real entrenched things that are happening in the homes when people are at home sheltering in safety. And I think that those are a lot of the things that haven't been talked about yet. And I know that those weren't topics that we picked to discuss, but those are certain things that are happening right now in our free country that we need to get back to an economy that supports us. And we need to save people from the slippery slope of unemployment. And we need to get people back into chiropractic offices and getting checked, because there's three things that chiropractors help with: thoughts, traumas, and toxins. The spirituality that you get from being fit and healthy and happy with chiropractic is second to none. So I'm just going to close out. And if you guys have been watching this and found some value in this, hashtag value in the comments there. Let us know where you guys are watching in from. And if you're watching us on replay, hashtag replay in the comments. And if you wanted to get a shirt like Dr. Cordie, where do they find
there
that?
It is right here. So I was going to give a little shout out there. Okay. And this was one of the first drafts. We had to get it like 2 days before the real shirts were ready, so I could go live on Del Bigtree at the Capitol a couple of weeks ago. But you can go to www.1776foreverfree.com. And to Jim's point, what you guys can do is just go on my Facebook page, Cordie Lee Williams, DC. A lot of chiros have been great about it. We just hit 7.2 million today. Go to the scoop video, like it and share it. Please like it and share it. You can't like it and share it too much. Sacramento, May 23rd, in front of the Capitol. It'll be across the street from the Capitol. There's going to be tons of people there. And Jim, I hope I didn't take over things tonight. I was just passionate, bro. I thank you so much for having me on, man. You're a leader. And I'm telling you, man, I give you the honorary doctor certificate as a chiropractor, man, because you always level up, dude. And we love you. I'm glad you're part of this profession.
Well, it's important. Once I found my soul genius, and it's important to share that opportunity with people that have the voice. And I never created Hustle to share my voice. I created to tell the chiropractic story. So my time is up for tonight, but I want to thank all of you guys that have been on with us, and we will catch you on the next Chiro Hustle live stream.
God bless you guys.
Thank you for listening to Chiro Hustle Live. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.